Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode of Peace of Mind, the official Pieces talk show. So far, we've covered raiding in Mythic Plus and the events that have occurred in BFA, and we've even looked forward going into Shadowlands and some of the things we might be able to expect. Tonight, I am one of your hosts, Psybearslat, and introducing my lovely co-host, Bastu.
Yeah, what's up?
And tonight, we've got a bit of a baker's handful of guests for you. They're very knowledgeable, very smart, bright, lovely people that we're going to be checking out in just a second. And of course, thank you to our sponsors, Wowhead and HyperX. HyperX have provided 2 Quadcast S microphones to be given away to you, chat, in a little bit. So make sure you look out for that. And me and Bastu have had an opportunity, obviously, to play with some of these ourselves. And they're fantastic. So far, my favorite feature of this has been able to just tap to mute just whenever beautiful. I need to kind of, it's lovely, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's fantastic. But yeah, if you guys, go ahead.
I think my girlfriend's going to be wanting to steal this mic afterwards. I mean, like, again, the fact that you can just tap to mute is like next level, gonna be honest.
Yeah, my stream's going to love it. I'll probably keep it on full time. But if you want to get your hands on one of these, chat, then make sure you look out for the giveaway later on in the stream. Apart from that, don't forget to subscribe to the channel if you want to get your hands on some of our lovely new emotes. They're looking fantastic. And Bastu, unless you had anything else to add, should we jump in and meet our guests?
Yeah, let's go. We got Bicmex, Mystic, and Maro coming on to talk about some nice BFA ladder gameplay. So let's bring them on.
Sounds good.
I have a big small wall time in.
Alrighty, so here we got Bicmex, Mystic, and Maro. Welcome in, guys. How you doing today?
Yo, what's up?
Hello.
Hey, doing fantastic, actually.
Yeah. Do you enjoy that nice clip of you, Mystic, on there? Yeah, that's right.
Really appreciate I get one shot and everyone else like smoking everyone.
It actually lines us up for a pretty good question of, obviously, this season, corruption has been a massive thing in PvP. Obviously, it wasn't really in past seasons. How much of a difference do you think it's made to the ladder? As in,
huge.
Do you think it's so? What exactly do you mean by huge though? Because a lot of the comps that we've been run have still been the same, right? What do you think?
I think the system. Yeah, I think it started off kind of bad and then got progressively worse as the season progressed because our cloak resistance went up. So like at the start, people were getting one shot by infinite stars, and it was like stacking really quickly, and Mindflake could be shielded and stuff like that. And by the end, we just had crazy high stats, and outside of like haste being stacked and being really impossible to play against, when people are stacking Versa, you end up with people being kind of unkillable. And if you're unkillable, you can't die. The game just becomes really easy to play. And then, I just don't think it was good for the health of the game.
Yeah.
I mean, I think for sure for like, as a hunter, like the way that jungle played out was just way different from the early season to like the later of the season. Because pretty much early on, no one had versatility. Everyone was just playing Gushing and the Tentacles and the Twilight Devastation and stuff like that, Infinite Stars. But then later on, when everyone figured out that like versatility is just the best stat by far, jungle just became this like dampening team comp instead of like a setup based. Like you no longer win by like stun, trap, fear. You just win until the enemy, healer's mana bar goes down to 0.
Yeah. You start winning with stun dressed instead, right?
Yeah, pretty much.
I mean, versatility, obviously, it buffed the hell out of trinkets, right, as well. So,
I mean, of course, as well. Like reaping as well.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's like you see people go 50, 60, 70% into a stun, and then obviously against jungle, obviously they come out of that stun and they're gone just because of versatile reaping dressed. I see Maro do that.
Against jungle, you were playing with like 70% health against jungle.
Yeah,
you were.
Yeah,
so crazy. You drop even to half.
Mm-hmm.
It was kind of dumb.
Sounds like a good time. Jungle versus
especially Yeah, I mean, especially as a rogue buster, I mean, I'm sure you can relate to
Yeah, of
getting killed, dying to dress trinkets,
Mhm.
trinkets a lot of times.
Yeah, it's a tough one. Something else that obviously on the flip side of this whole expansion, right, is the first season you had another problem in PvP, which was MMR capping. What happened there? Can one of you explain that to me?
I think it like became an issue in this season as well. Well, not really an issue in that way, but it became like it became a thing. In the first season of BFA, people found out because I mean the first season of BFA, where obviously a lot of people played, a lot of people came back. The ladder was very active, and the way this game or like MMR works in WoW is that if a lot of people play, then MMR inflates. If two teams have the same MMR and they go 5-5 versus each other, they're just gonna gain rating. So eventually people got to like 3.4 rating, like really high rating that people never really achieved before, and people found out or realized there was an MMR cap in the game, which kind of made it impossible to climb higher than you could at the time. I actually don't know what happened the first season. I think it just was the same as this season, right? It just went up like one every day, right?
I think it was the same, but I honestly don't even think there being an MMR cap is the problem. I just think the way that inflation works, and like Mara said, you get to a point where MMR is so inflated that you'll go 5-5 and go up in rating, which is not how it should be. You compare to other matchmaking systems in other games where you'll basically win or lose the same amount as you progress, and so if you go 5-5, you're going to end up at the same rating, which is how it should be to some extent.
That's the point. Yeah, if you're going even, you shouldn't be gaining, I guess.
Right. But
So
you'll look at. Go ahead.
why do you think it was only a problem in season 1 and season 4? Like season 1, right, was so short; it was 20 weeks, and then season 2 was like 22 weeks. Season 3 was like 27 weeks. Season 4 was 38 weeks or something ridiculous.
I think.
Why do you think?
I think it was. Go ahead, Brian.
I was going to say, I don't think we know how the actual MMR inflation system works under the hood. Like, it's never actually been said. We just know that there is one, and over time, like MMR just gradually gets higher. So maybe it's a manual thing which they can alter, and so that's why it's adjusted to the length of the season. I'm not entirely sure, but that could have something to do with that.
I mean, I know people found out, for example, in this season now that the MMR cap went up by like 1 each day. So I mean, that's something people found out, which people probably didn't know before. I mean, people didn't know there was even an MMR cap in a way. So yeah, I mean, at least that's what people found out. But yeah, like Brian said, people don't even know how it like fully works.
Yeah. I mean, it's not exactly a super easy system, right? And it's obviously, as Brian said, it's not really public. So no one.
I literally have no clue either how the MMR works. So
yeah, I mean, the only
person, no matter what. I think no matter what, ultimately it's just not good for the game that it inflates the way it does, and that you go 50-50 and go up in rating, because you end up with teams that are being rewarded when they shouldn't be. And I think that is bad for the health of like the competitiveness of the game.
Yeah.
Out of interest as well, does that impact like the duration at which you have to be playing within a season? Like, do you have to constantly be active to take advantage of that?
Yeah, for sure. Like near the end of the season, you were. Because near the end of the season, you were kind of forced to play. Brian?
I could give you an example. A month before the season end, a player that would have been top 10 on the ladder would have fallen out of the top 100 by the end.
Oh,
more than 4 weeks.
More than that.
I mean, it was
even more. Yeah, actually, much more than that. That's true. Yeah, that's
absolutely ridiculous.
But that
it's like puts it a month or two ago. Rank 50 was now, rank 300 or something. Like the difference.
But is
massive.
that really a bad thing? Like, I'm not saying the way they do that is like good, but is it a bad thing that you have to play the last week of the season?
Yeah, I guess camping.
I think, like ultimately that's like a good thing though, but it's just like by the numbers, it's just like way too much. I think.
Well, I think the main issue is. I think the main issue is more that it only really goes up when people play a lot. I think that's the main issue. Like the MMR doesn't, or the rating doesn't go up much all season long. Like, I mean, I felt it myself, like you would have to go like 20-0 and you would get plus 20 rating, because people are just not that high mid-season, and end of the season it like randomly spikes super hard because everyone tries for their titles, everyone tries for their end of season rewards, and ultimately I don't think this MMR inflation thing is the right way. Maybe something like a rating decay system would be better, but it at least
100%.
makes the ladder active in the end. But yeah, could have
Okay.
been maybe done better.
So talking about like indifferences in the ladder and stuff, what do you think of Alliance versus Horde? Obviously, this season it was massive, right? There were 200 Horde spots for rank 1, 100 spots for Alliance rank 1. What do you think of that? I mean, obviously there's a lot of different opinions, but go on.
Yeah, so I think that prior to this season, it didn't really make sense for either faction to be a higher cutoff, like the actual rating that you needed to be higher than the other, because the ratios were kind of close to end strength. But this season, with the comps like Rogue Mage and Jungle being so absurdly good, it made Alliance ratios much better. So it should, in theory, be harder to get rank 1 like as an Alliance team. But I think the issue is that the number of spots should be equal. The spots shouldn't be split up based on Horde or Alliance. There should be equal number of spots, and then the cutoff could be higher or lower just based on the rank. So if it's top 100 and above, sure, Alliance might be higher because the ratios are better. But I think having like way more Horde spots than Alliance spots is just tragic. Like it should not be that way.
Yeah. No, I mean, I can agree with that. I think definitely I do see why there has to be a difference. Or well, I don't know. I mean, a lot of people argue against, obviously, but as you say, you know, basically every comp that maybe Resto, Shaman, Cleaves were better on Alliance. And so obviously it's like a hard fight. But yeah, I mean, having a different amount of spots is obviously. What do you think, Maro Bicmex?
I mean, for me, it's like, I mean, Healverset as well. Like Jungle is like obviously way better than Alliance because you can play human, and you also have Night Elf as well, so you can like triple stack. I mean, you have double Relay plus Night Elf for the for the Feral player, and then for RMP, I'm pretty sure it's better as well if you go human. And then for like all of the like melee cleaves, you can just go Horde. So I think there's like more options in the really high tier of play, like top 100-ish for Alliance comps. But then like generally I think Horde players have like an easier time climbing up the ladder because it seems like a lot of the melee cleaves and stuff like that. And even Jungle is like pretty strong on Horde as well. So
yeah.
I mean, it's like really hard to like balance all of these cleaves and stuff.
Can I weigh in on that? In terms of the Horde Alliance imbalance, like what does that actually stem from? Because in my head, that comes from the fact that raiding is predominantly Horde based. Now, does that come into the fact that because you're PvPing and you need your Drestagath and you need your like, mythic N'Zoth and whatnot, you're incentivized to be on Horde? I mean, obviously in tournament play, you can be whatever you want, but when it comes to the ladder, how is that impacted?
I don't think that has anything to do with it.
Pretty sure it's just comp based for the most part. I
There's
mean,
just more people play Horde
tournaments.
Yeah, but that's the point, right? Why do more people play Horde? Especially
because more people play Horde, not necessarily more PvPers. I mean, if you look at the top of the ladder, it's not
Most
that much more. It's more Alliance. More people are like at the high end. More people play Alliance, but the majority of the World of Warcraft community are Horde, and so you end up with this imbalance with titles that don't really represent what's best in PvP, because you can still get your trinkets on Alliance. You're not like you're not gonna get them. So I don't think that has anything harder. Yeah, it will be a bit harder, but you'll still get them. I just think more people play Horde. Just more people play WoW or Horde, so that's why it happens.
All right. Last question for the section. What do you think of Spike Trinket? Honest answer.
Doesn't come back.
I think at the start of the season it was like
actually on being showed on the stream right now. I think this is your partner, Bicmex.
Yeah, it is actually.
Yeah, I mean, you can just see, like, obviously the imbalance.
It's just
a game state.
It's just not fun at all. I mean, then again, like, there's some ways you can play around it, but like, it's just.
Do you not think like, it brings an interesting element in? Obviously, for example, you play against
RMP. Me, it's like rock paper scissors. It's like so annoying as well.
What? So do you just think it's pure RNG? You don't think there's any?
Yeah, it's completely RNG. 100%. I mean, obviously there's like some setup to it, but it's even like RNG before the game is even started. Because I remember we have to like /who, so you can see the enemy team that you're against, and you even know like which RMPs are spiting people. So you have to like check your friend list, like, oh, am I against the team that spites? Okay, I'm gonna remove all of my gear. And then like, if you're not against the team, you can like, oh, I can play high corruption because they're not gonna spite me probably. So it's just like before the game even starts, you have to like check all this like your friend list and stuff and like see who's even playing. It's like, I don't know, that
even with the
dynamic is just not fun at all.
Even with the subtext, you don't like it at all?
Nah, it's just not. It's.
What do you think,
It
Maro
shouldn't
Brian?
be in the game whatsoever.
I think the idea was good. I actually don't think the idea necessarily was bad. I just think that it like favors some classes way more than other classes,
Like Rogue.
and like Rogue, Double Monk, like comps like Double Monk would always be good with fighting on monks in general. It would like be very like unfavored for classes like Warlock, which maybe didn't even end up being that bad because Warlocks were so strong anyway. But I think the main issue that I have with it is that it just like makes competitive games, especially in tournaments, even more like rock paper scissors and even more random than they were before. Like imagine this whole scenario with like having blind picks in tournaments, and like in addition to the blind picks, you also have to think about, is the enemy team gonna spite? Do I have to take off corruption, or are they not gonna spite? And it just makes it like too much RNG in the end, and it had too much of an impact. And also the RNG element of the trinket itself, where you get above 40 corruption and you could be really lucky and not spawn a single man for 15 seconds. You could also spawn 3 men in a row,
Instantly.
like what Grand Illusions, whatever you want to call it, and that just made it a little bit awkward to play around.
A little bit tough.
I think one of the problems that I also have with Spite is like, it's giving teams that usually don't have a win condition into other specific comps. They're like giving them like a win condition for free if you like play some very gimmicky trinket thing. I don't know. I think
which is not healthy.
Most teams should be able to find like another way to win the game.
It's
I mean, it's just like
hard to fight, right? Yeah. So you just give people a way to cheese wins.
It depends on the team comp you're against. If they have a lot of stops, like into Windwalkers, you can have to bait Tigerslat before you do your go and stuff like that.
The wind
Is it a good thing to add those like extra elements into the game, those extra elements of mind games into second guessing what your opponent may or may not do, and then having to adjust from that, or is it not necessary?
It's not necessary. I don't think it's good.
Yeah.
Like why should you be punished for wearing too much corruption and then end up being spited, or wearing not enough corruption and then the other team just has way more stats than you and then they didn't run spite, and then you're like, okay, well now I'm at a disadvantage before the gates have even opened. It's just It's just why. How's it good?
Yeah.
I mean, in my opinion, trinkets or just gear in general shouldn't give your team an additional win condition. That's just the way that I think about it. I think it should just be like your team coordination and like actually using the abilities that your class have, like nothing else.
Player skill.
As opposed to 3, 2, 1 dress together.
Something new. Yes, I mean, I guess I can't say anything. I'm a jungle player.
No, that's not that. Yeah. All right. Well, I think that wraps up our ladder section. So yeah, I think we've covered a lot of some of the problems of ladder. Obviously, more this season as well with corruption and spite, and some of the oddities in MMR capping. So yeah, Mystic, I don't think is coming on again. Anything to say before you go, Brian?
Thanks for having me. I hope you have a good show.
Yeah. All right.
Thanks for being on.
Yeah. Thank you very much.
Bye, Brian.
That's an interesting one.
Yeah, that was passion filled.
Yeah, no, I mean obviously, like the spite trinket especially brings up a lot of varying opinions. But obviously, these three had fairly similar opinions and that they didn't like it.
At least it's obviously unanimous.
Yeah, no, I mean something Bicmex said though is giving one comp a win condition versus another one purely out of a gimmick isn't something that's super great. But then again, is it so bad if that comp doesn't have a chance of beating the other comp at all? I mean, obviously, ideally, that shouldn't be a thing, right? There shouldn't be one comp that just, you can't do anything. It shouldn't be
you just auto lose before the gates even open. Yeah.
Exactly. Maybe that resolves down to, a deeper design problem of, having a better, balance between comps and stuff. But obviously, it's very hard to balance when there is so many different classes, specs, stuff like that.
That's the thing I love about PvP is just that malleable nature of it. It reminds me of, when I look at I was a big time StarCraft player and it was just the meta, seeing things constantly evolve and seeing, knowing that you're going up against a comp that may potentially is potentially better than yours, and on paper that you should lose, and trying to find ways to overcome that and kind of, I guess, reinvent the meta in a sense is really cool, in my opinion. So it's
funny when you have a comp that then gets countered by another comp, so someone else finds another comp that counters that comp, and it keeps on going. And obviously, every team changes because everyone's like, oh, okay, everyone's going to play this, so I need to play
exactly
some comp that will counter it, and obviously that keeps on going. So I say it's kind of interesting.
Yeah, definitely. That was a good little segment. Like I say, everyone's really passionate. Chat. I don't know what you thought, chat. I thought that was really interesting to learn. And I mean, like I'm not mega experienced when it comes to PvP, but I mean that was really great to kind of get those guys' perspectives on how BFA went, and especially tapping into corruption, because that's obviously been such a massive element to this season 4 of BFA. So that was really cool to kind of get their opinions on. And man, I'd love to see what they think about Shadowlands, but maybe in future, huh? Maybe later on.